Nicholas Prosper, the delusional teen who claimed a cartoon told him to kill. He had no criminal record, never caused trouble, and no one, not friends, neighbors, or even family, ever thought he was dangerous. But inside Nicholas Prosper's mind, something had shifted long ago. He believed a character from a video game was whispering to him, controlling him. And on the morning of September 13th, inside a small apartment in the UK, Nicholas murdered his entire family. Then he calmly began preparing for a mass shooting at an elementary school. This would become one of the most chilling cases in the UK in 2024. And when police uncovered the full extent of his plan, they were horrified. Luton, England, a quiet, ordinary town just like any other. But inside a small flat in the Marsh Farm neighborhood, the Prosper family was unknowingly living out their final days of peace. Nicholas Prosper, born December 18, 2005, was just 18 years old. The eldest child, the quiet son. No one, absolutely no one, could have imagined he'd one day become the center of a national tragedy. His mother, Juliana Falcon, 48, was described as a loving, devoted parent, always caring for her children. His younger siblings, Kyle, 16, and Giselle, 13, were both well-behaved, friendly kids. Loved by teachers, respected by classmates. Nicholas had once attended St. Joseph's Catholic Primary School, the very place he would later plan to turn into a massacre site. There were no major red flags in Nicholas's childhood, no history of abuse, no signs of violence in the home. He grew up in what appeared to be a normal family. But over time, Nicholas began to withdraw. He isolated himself, spent nearly all his time alone in his room. He became deeply introverted, cutting off social interaction almost completely. At one point, he was even banned from a disturbing death-themed website after posting comments that appeared to endorse child abuse. Then came September 13th, 2024, a day that began like any other, but would end in unimaginable bloodshed. All right, we know Nicholas Prosper was a quiet, withdrawn teenager, spending most of his time alone in his room, glued to his computer screen. But what no one, not even his mother, not even his two younger siblings, could have imagined was that, for over a year, he'd been secretly planning a mass murder. Not out of rage, not out of revenge, not for any twisted sexual motive. So, why? The first clue lies in his obsession with mass murderers. Nicholas didn't just want to kill. He wanted to outdo every killer that came before him. He wanted his name to echo like a dark legend. In his mind, the Sandy Hook shooting and Virginia Tech weren't tragedies. They were targets, benchmarks he needed to surpass. That was his motive, to become the most infamous school shooter of the 21st century. And he wasn't kidding. In prison, Prosper once told a nurse, completely emotionless, "I wish I had killed more people." He spent hours every day researching mass shootings from the US, Australia, Norway, New Zealand. But there was something else, something even darker driving him, an obsession with a fictional character named Clementine from the video game The Walking Dead. In Nicholas's mind, Clementine wasn't fictional. She was real. She was his girlfriend. She was the voice in his head, telling him what to do. He told a nurse, "I want to die after the shooting so I can be with Clementine forever." Sounds insane, doesn't it? Nicholas began planning in September 2023. For nearly a year, he mapped it all out, step by step. His chosen target, St. Joseph's Catholic Primary School, where he and his siblings once studied. The intended victims, 34-year-old children and 2 teachers. Then suicide. The number 30 wasn't random. He chose it to beat the Sandy Hook death toll. But first, he needed a weapon. In August 2024, he started looking for ways to buy a gun. He was underage and didn't qualify. So he forged a gun license, elaborate and convincing enough that no one questioned it. On September 12th, he bought a Nico double-barrel shotgun. To avoid suspicion, he memorized facts about clay pigeon shooting, posing as an amateur sportsman. He even carried a knife in his pocket, just in case he needed to kill the seller to get away clean. And here's where it gets chilling. Back in April, Nicholas recorded himself rehearsing. In his kitchen, holding a piece of wood like a shotgun, practicing how to enter a classroom, how to aim, how to reload, how to smile. He even designed a custom yellow and black uniform, so the media would remember his look. He drew maps of the school, marked each classroom, and next to them he wrote, "Kill them all." The original massacre was planned for September 12th. Nicholas intended to kill his mother and siblings in their sleep, then head straight to the school. But he changed his mind. He said September 13th. just sounded better. That morning, he planned to leave the house at 8:30 a.m. By 9 o'clock, he'd be standing outside the first classroom, pretending to hold the teacher hostage, and then opening fire on groups of 4-year-olds. Once he reached his target of 30 victims, he'd end it all with a single shot. To himself. Sounds familiar? A young, isolated male. A school. A plan to kill as many as possible, then take his own life to become a name the media would never forget. If this reminds you of Sandy Hook, it's no coincidence. In 2012, in Connecticut, USA, Adam Lanza, just 20 years old, killed his own mother, then entered an elementary school and murdered 26 people, including 20 children, before turning the gun on himself. Nicholas Prosper knew that case well. In fact, as we've said, he saw it as a benchmark. Not something to mourn, something to beat. He had no political agenda, no history of abuse, no signs of bullying. He just wanted to be remembered, to make his name synonymous with blood. And on that morning, September 13th, 2024, Nicholas believed he was about to make history. But something happened, something that wasn't in the script he wrote, and that one thing saved dozens of innocent lives. Early that morning, as the city of Luton still slept beneath dim streetlights, Nicholas Prosper began to move. 5:30 a.m. He stood in his bedroom, fully dressed, wearing the black and yellow outfit he had prepared for months. In his hands, the Nico double-barrel shotgun he had bought just the day before. Before hurting anyone, he fired a test shot into a stuffed teddy bear. A ritual, a final check, to make sure the weapon worked. Then he opened the door. His mother, Juliana, was the first to notice something was wrong. She had woken up, maybe from the sound of the shot, maybe from a mother's instinct. She stepped out and saw her son standing in the living room, dressed like a stranger, holding a shotgun. At first, she might have thought it was a prank, a weird cosplay, something harmless. But then she saw the school map on the table, and she knew something terrible was about to happen. She screamed. She rushed at him, tried to grab the gun, tried to pull her son back to reality. But it was no use. They struggled violently. And then Nicholas pulled the trigger. Juliana fell instantly. A shot to the head. Dead on the spot. Take a moment to picture that. A mother fighting to stop her son from committing a massacre, becoming his first victim. The gunshot woke Kyle and Giselle. 16-year-old Kyle ran into the hallway, trying to escape. But Nicholas turned and shot him in the chest. As Kyle collapsed, Nicholas walked over and fired another round into his head at point-blank range. Then he took out a kitchen knife and stabbed him over 100 times, like he was releasing every ounce of madness he had stored inside. It's one of the most brutal scenes even seasoned detectives said they had ever witnessed. Next was Giselle, just 13. She had no chance to run, no one to save her. She became the final victim. Nicholas fired a total of 7 shots inside the small apartment. He reloaded twice. It all unfolded in just a few minutes and was eerily silent, until the gunshots echoed through the thin walls and woke the neighbors. 5:33 a.m. Prosper left the apartment, blood on his clothes, carrying the loaded shotgun, a knife, his written plan, and over 30 rounds of ammunition. He was on his way to St. Joseph's Catholic Primary to finish what he called his mission. 5:50 a.m. police arrived at the scene after a 911 call from a neighbor. They forced open the apartment door and froze at the horror inside. They found Juliana, Kyle, and Giselle dead, the floor soaked in blood, bloody handprints smeared across the walls, the hallway, the bedroom door. As officers left the scene, 2 others spotted a young man walking down a nearby street. He was wearing a t-shirt, his face blank, blood on his cheek. Their instincts kicked in. They stopped him immediately. Nicholas Prosper didn't resist. As they placed him in handcuffs, he calmly repeated, "It wasn't murder." Soon after, police searched the bushes near where he was caught. There, they found the loaded shotgun and a bag of 30 extra rounds. He was also carrying a kitchen knife. When detectives examined his apartment and laptop, they were stunned. A detailed plan, maps of the school, classroom layouts marked with the words, "Kill them all," and practice videos, rehearsals. Everything was in place. Everything was ready for a mass killing. If you're looking for a logical explanation for what Nicholas Prosper did, let me say this up front: there's no explanation that makes it understandable or reasonable. After his arrest, Nicholas Prosper was evaluated by Dr. Ian Koyman, one of the UK's leading forensic psychiatrists. And the first diagnosis was clear. Prosper was on the autism spectrum. That might explain his social withdrawal, his obsession with detail, and his extreme focus on certain topics. In Prosper's case, that topic was mass shootings. He didn't just read about them, he studied them like textbooks. Sandy Hook, Virginia Tech, Utoya. To him, these weren't tragedies. They were templates. And if you think that's as far as it goes, it wasn't. According to Dr. Koyman, autism alone couldn't explain Prosper's emotional detachment or brutal, calculated cruelty. He showed clear signs of psychopathic tendencies, a person who felt no guilt, lacked empathy, and was willing to cause extreme suffering. Almost like it was a twisted test of logic. During interrogations, Prosper remained disturbingly calm. He didn't tremble, didn't get angry, didn't cry. He even smiled, joked, and told investigators he wished he had killed more people. Wanted to be more famous than Sandy Hook. These weren't the words of someone out of control. They were the words of someone in full control, driven by a single goal: fame through violence. And then there's the most chilling layer of all: delusion. Prosper developed a fantasy relationship with Clementine, a fictional character from the Walking Dead video game. In his mind, she wasn't a game character. She was his girlfriend, his partner, his reason for living, and the person he wanted to protect at all costs. He once smashed objects in a rage when his sister made a wrong choice in the game because he believed it hurt Clementine. The line between fiction and reality had disappeared, and in its place stood a boy who believed a video game character was telling him to commit real murder. So what are the experts saying? They call it the zero-to-killer phenomenon. Individuals with no prior record who seem harmless until they're radicalized online by violent, extreme content. Forums, videos, manifestos that glorify mass murderers. This content didn't just influence Prosper. It rewired him. In his mind, violence equals power. Killing equals glory. Fame equals immortality. And once that belief took root, he chased it with everything he had. He killed his mother, killed his brother, killed his little sister, and was preparing to slaughter dozens of children. He knew the consequences. He just didn't care. He wrote a plan, rehearsed the steps, learned how to lie to buy a gun, designed a signature outfit, mapped the school, recorded himself acting it all out. It was cold, calculated, and completely devoid of emotion. In the words of leading experts, Nicholas Prosper is an extremely dangerous individual, a toxic combination of autism spectrum disorder, psychopathic traits, delusional attachment, and a deeply disturbed obsession with violence and fame. When it comes to the Prosper family, perhaps the most heartbreaking part isn't the crime itself. It's that they never saw it coming. There were no warning signs, no medical reports marked high risk. Just a quiet son, introverted, into video games, a little distant maybe. For many families, that's just adolescence. For the Prospers, it was a reason not to worry. What they didn't realize was this: when a disturbed mind is left alone in silence for too long, it starts making its own noise. And sometimes that noise is the sound of gunfire. Experts now believe that Nicholas had shown troubling signs long before his obsession with mass shootings, his bizarre attachment to fictional characters. But without the right training, those signs were easy to dismiss as just odd interests. Meanwhile, his bedroom, meant to be lit only by the soft glow of a screen, had become the incubator of a murder plot. One key factor: isolation in the online world. Nicholas had lived in that space far too long. And in the virtual world, no parent is fast enough. No one saw him rehearsing a shooting in the kitchen with a piece of wood. No one said, "This is a real threat." They just saw a weird kid playing pretend. There's another chilling fact to consider. As mentioned earlier, Nicholas uploaded a video of himself rehearsing the school shooting back in April. That wasn't a subtle hint. It was a full-blown warning. And no one reported it. No one noticed. No algorithm flagged it. And if anyone did see it, they probably thought, it's a joke. Just cosplay. That's the problem. We've gotten too used to separating the online world from the real one. And because of that, we always arrive too late. In case after case, the shooter had no criminal history. No red flags on record. But the truth is, violence doesn't begin with the first shot. It begins with silence. And for Nicholas Prosper, silence became a deadly language. He's not the first. And he won't be the last. Unless something changes. Over the past decade, we've seen a wave of mass shootings, all with clear warning signs online. And yet ignored. Nicholas Cruz, who commented online that he wanted to become a professional school shooter. Peyton Gendron, who posted a hate-filled manifesto. Salvador Ramos, who sent threatening messages hours before opening fire. Dylan Roof, who posed with guns and Confederate flags. They didn't cry for help. They declared war. And still, they were ignored. Why do we look away? There are many reasons, and none of them are safe. 1. We don't know what's real anymore. In a world where memes of guns sit next to burger ads and TikTok dance videos, violent threats are brushed off as jokes, metaphors, or just trolling. 2. We're drowning in content. Hundreds of millions of posts fly past moderators daily. AI can't catch nuance. Human staff can't keep up. And warnings vanish like a drop in the ocean. 3. The system is too slow. When someone clicks report, how many steps before that alert reaches a human with the power to act? And by the time it does, will it be too late? Again. But maybe the deepest flaw of all is this. We don't believe the warnings. Because we think they're just talking. Nobody actually live streams a murder. That's someone else's problem. And while we think those thoughts, the shooter is at their screen. Planning, practicing, counting down. Technology alone won't save us. We need a society that doesn't look away. A reporting system that's fast, simple, effective. Real cooperation between people, platforms, and law enforcement. And more than anything, we need to teach each other how to recognize danger, even when it's wearing the mask of a joke, a live stream, or a cosplay costume. Because if we don't, the Prosper case won't be the last. It'll just be the prequel to another tomorrow's tragedy. In December 2024, nearly the entire country of England held its breath. The trial of Nicholas Prosper, the 18-year-old who had carried out one of the most brutal knife attacks ever seen in Bedfordshire, was scheduled to begin on the 5th. But for undisclosed legal reasons, the hearing was postponed. What followed was a month of silence. No updates. No explanations. No one knew what was happening behind the closed door of Prosper's isolated prison cell. But while the public waited for justice, Nicholas kept talking. Not to the court, not to his lawyer, but to people inside the prison, people he believed would listen. He described his original plan in chilling detail, and then added, "I regret not killing more." On February 24th, 2025, he finally appeared in court. No debate, no denial. Prosper pleaded guilty to all charges, including 3 counts of murder. An 18-year-old calmly confessing to his crimes, as if reading off a grocery list. 3 weeks later, on March 19th, the final verdict was delivered. Judge Chima Grubb looked him dead in the eye and sentenced him to life in prison with a minimum term of 49 years. Then came the words that sent chills through the courtroom. This individual remains extremely dangerous. He may never be released. And even that sentence didn't close the case. The judgment has since been submitted to the Attorney General for review under the unduly lenient sentence program. And with that, a haunting question remains. How did an 18-year-old go this far? And no one stopped him? Right after the verdict was handed down, public reaction wasn't just outrage, it was a national reckoning. People across the UK weren't just haunted by the brutal details. A teenager who planned the massacre himself, armed with guns and knives, ready to slaughter dozens, they were haunted by something far worse. He had said all online, in videos, in messages. And no one stopped him. Then came the news that Nicholas Prosper had forged documents to buy his weapon. And panic deepened. If an 18-year-old could beat the system that easily, who's really safe? Home Secretary Yvette Cooper stepped in front of the cameras. Her face was cold, composed. "We will change things," she said. No vague promises, no political fog. She pledged a complete overhaul of the weapons control system, especially in the private gun sales market, the very loophole Prosper exploited. But what made her message hit harder wasn't the tone, it was the urgency behind it. Because she knew, the country knew, and maybe it was already too late. So now you know the story of Nicholas Prosper. This wasn't just a gruesome family murder. It was a warning about how a child can spiral into darkness right inside a civilized society, about the deadly silence of a community that doesn't act, and about the dangerous cracks in systems built to protect us all. So tell us, what do you think is the most terrifying part of this case? Was it Nicholas Prosper's cold-blooded plan, or the way everyone around him missed it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more stories that are shocking, eerie, and sometimes almost unbelievable, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.